guys, welcome to my art channel. Thanks for stopping by to make some art with me. For more free art lessons, you could press the button below and subscribe right there on that red button. And I will see you really soon. Now let's get to making some art. Bye-bye. Hi, welcome to Mixed Media Art. Today we are going to learn a little bit about Mendi, which is a type of temporary body art, very popular in India. And we're going to also learn how to make our own scratch art paper. And we are going to make our own Mendi hand. So we're going to need a few supplies today. One of them is we're going to need some scrap paper because we're going to be practicing some designs. You're going to need crayons, a paintbrush, some tempera paint, a pencil and scissors, and something to scratch the paint off with, which will be toothpicks work well, and even a dull pencil works well. And you're going to need some dish soap, and I'll explain why later. So we're going to get started by making the actual scratch art paper, which doesn't look like much now, but I'm just going to move everything out of the way, and we are going to start with our crayons. So the way scratch art paper works is that it's in layers. The first layer is lots of different colored crayons. And then the next layer is the tempera paint, and we let that dry. And when that dries, we mix in a little of dish soap in the paint, so it makes it easy to scratch off, and we get to see these beautiful designs and scratch off to see what's underneath. So what you're going to do is pick a bunch of different colored, brightly colored crayons, and you're just going to color in different blocks of color. The more color you make on your paper, you also need your mixed media paper sheet. It's a little bit heavier than your sketch paper. We're going to be working on the drawing paper. And this is going to be able to hold the crayon and another layer of the tempera paint without it warping too much and without it ripping. So let's get some color blocks. And you can use as many colors as you like. And I'm just doing small blocks of color, and I'm going to color this whole page. So I'm pressing kind of hard with the crayon because I want to make sure that I'm not leaving a lot of white spaces in between, because wherever I scratch the design, I want to be able to have color and not just white paper. And if you notice, I'm using a lot of really bright colors. I'm not using grays and blacks and dark blues or browns because I'm afraid that once I scratch the design in, they won't really pop out on the paper. So I'm sticking with the much brighter colors, as you can see here. Okay, so you're going to fill your page, and once that's filled, you're going to need a little container, because you're going to have to mix your paint with the soap. You're going to need your paint, your dish soap, and a brush. And you can work on a piece of newspaper if you want to keep the table clean. So I'm just going to work on my paper here. So I already put a little bit of dish soap in. I'm going to put in about a nickel size of dish soap. Going to look like a nickel into my little container, and then I'm going to pour in my paint. I don't need a lot of paint, probably the size, let's make it the size of a quarter. We have a nickel size for the soap and a quarter size for the paint, and I'm going to mix it together really, really well. I'm going to mix the soap and the paint. Whoops. really well. And then I'm going to cover the entire page. And I'm letting my paper dry completely because the project will not work unless that tempera paint is completely dry. You can feel it almost feels a little bit rough. So that might take an hour or so. So while we're waiting for the paint to dry, I'm going to teach you how to draw some of the henna or the Mendi designs. I just have to change my camera so you can get a close-up look at what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do some basic Mendi designs. Some designs that you will see often in these designs are dots. And dots can either be all the same size, or they can go from small to large. So you can just put some dots on your paper and practice on your sketch paper. The next thing that you will see on many Mendi designs is the lace. And the lace often goes on the curve of the arm, like it might go around the wrist or it might go around the ankle. So you would have a line and then the lace, just like these little, almost like half circle type of shapes. And that's what the lace looks like. You'll often see swirls. Okay, and they can be done like the letter S with a little extra heavy dot in there. And the swirls can also be turned into curlicues. So they're the swirls, plus they have these added little drops on them that look a little bit like leaves. And then we also have the vines, which you'll see a lot of, and they don't have necessarily the curlicue parts in them, but they will have a wavy line and then leaves coming off of them. Something else you'll see often are flowers. And I'm going to show you how to make a larger flower, but you'll see a lot of smaller flowers. And it's going to start with a little circle and then it's going to have oval petals around it. You might also see a star, which instead of oval petals is going to be more like triangular petals. And you might see a flower that's a little bit, that's colored in instead of outlined. So those are some of the basic designs that you'll see, and I want you to get an idea of how to draw them. So you can take these and the other things that I'm going to show you and put them into a design that you want to use on your Mendi hand. So let me show you how to do the flower, which is very popular in the henna or the Mendi design. And it starts with a circle like that, and then the circle has a swirl in it. And at the end of the swirl, it's got a little dot. And these are very popular style flowers on the hennas that are done in India. This is very popular. So around that, you're going to make a lot of petals close together. And these petals are like, they're like U-shapes. Just like that. And they will surround the entire inside of the flower. So from here, what we're going to do is in the center, we're going to make a line. We're not going to cut through, but we're going to figure out where the center is and make a line on the top of the flower and on the bottom of the flower and then on either side. Because now we're going to make the larger petals, okay? And then we're going to go through this way. And then we're going to go this way. So you're making like a cross and then an X behind the flower. And to make the petals, you're going to connect these lines with a little bit of a rounded top like that. So each one is rounding in to make a new petal. And then we're going to connect the petals with a little bit of a point. And then inside the flowers, we're going to just make some lines in those larger petals. And that's what a flower would look like. You can, of course, use any style flower you like. This is just a style that's very popular in the India henna. And then I'm going to show you how to make a paisley, which is also very popular in the India henna from India. So a paisley starts off as a teardrop shape with a little curve on top. And then what we're going to do with that is we're going to outline it like that. And then we're going to continue this part of the outline and make a curve and a little curly Q in there. Inside these two lines, we're going to do another outline. And then we're ready to fill in the inside. So there's a number of ways to fill in the inside. We're going to do it with little spirals like this. And on the inside of each spiral, just like the curly Q, it's going to have a dot. And we're just going to fill up this whole paisley with those curly Qs. So when you're finished with the inside, we're going to go back to the outside of the paisley and we're going to follow along the whole outside with dots. So once you have your dots all around the paisley, we're going to add petals. And the petals are like half circles that go over each of those dots. Like so. And once you've finished all the petals around the paisley, we're going to outline the entire piece. What you see in a lot of the henna designs are multiple outlines that really make the design stand out. Like that. So you have your paisley, you have your flowers, and you learn to do a whole bunch of different line work. So now that you've practiced that, if you're paint is dry, which it probably isn't yet, you might have to wait some more time, we are ready to put the design onto the scratch paper. If your paint is still wet, now is a good time to use these pieces of sketch paper and play around with some of the designs and how you want to design your henna hand. Now we're ready to sketch out our hand and design our henna. So the way we're going to do that is, if your paper is dry, you're going to take your pencil and you're going to trace a little bit of your arm and your hand. And you can put your fingers any way you want. You can have them spread out, you can have them closed. I'm going to do a little bit of half and half. And I'm going to trace my arm and around all my fingers. Just like that. And you'll notice that you could already see some of the color popping through because I used a pencil and it pulled off some of the paint. So now is the real fun part, is you get to decorate your hand. So looking at the designs that we made, I'm going to kind of think about what I want to do on my hand. So a lot of times the wrists are highly decorated. So I'm going to start with that. And you can use a pencil to push off the paint and the crayon will show through if the pencil point is kind of dull. Or you can use a toothpick or a scratch art tool if you have one. So I like to use a pencil because it has more control. This is a little bit smaller, but it works great. So you're just going to make a design, and maybe on the wrist here, I'm going to start with our lace design. So the designs that you see in the henna are usually, they're simple, but there's a lot of them put together. They're simple shapes and lines. So I might do something like some diagonal lines. Like that, and then I'm going to cross them so it looks like lattice work, which is a little bit more decorative than just diagonal lines. Kind of like that. And where all the lines meet, I'm going to make little circles or little dots just to make it a little bit more decorative. So really, this is the time where you're going to use your creativity to make your own beautiful design. And then you could do something like that. Okay, so also with the mendis, they work on the palms of the hand and they also work on the top of the hand. So this can be either one. In the middle of the hand, I think I'm going to do a large paisley because I love those paisleys. So I'm going to make that shape in the middle of the hand. And then I'm going to outline it just like we did when we practiced it. And then I'll add that little curly cue at the tip, like that. And then I'm going to start to fill it in. So I'm filling this one in a little bit differently than the one we practiced with. I'm actually filling it in with something that looks almost like fish scales. I'm just being creative and doing something a little bit different. So you can do fish scales or circles. You can leave it blank. You could put flowers inside for your paisley if you choose to make a paisley. Okay, so now that I've done the paisley design, I'm going to do my outside. I'm going to do it a little different again because I have a different size here. I'm going to outline the outside, and then I'm going to add petals around it. And then inside the paisley, there's a couple of blank lines and blank spaces, and I'm going to put some dots in there just to give it some more texture and to give me an opportunity to scratch off some of the paint so the different colors pop out. So we're just using simple designs, dots and U-shaped curves, fish scale patterns, diagonal lines. And as you can see, more and more of the color is popping through, and it looks super cool. So with the Mendi or the henna designs, the fingers are always done as well. And you could do each finger the same, or you can do each finger differently, or mix and match however you want. I'm going to take the middle finger and I'm going to make it different than the other 4 fingers. And I'm going to start by just doing a vine. And I'm going to put some leaves on the vine, and I'm going to scratch out all the paint on those leaves so the color really shines through. Like that. And at the very tip of the finger, I'm going to make a flower, just like that. Now, I'm working very quickly for time's sake, but you can certainly slow down and take your time. Often on the fingers you see bands of design. So I'm going to actually draw out some bands on each other finger that's left. I don't know if you could see those. And then I'm going to put some decoration in the bands. And I'm going to do some vertical lines. So I just popped in some vertical lines in each band. And then I'm just going to add some maybe some curly cues coming out of the bands. So I've added some more design to the band, and the fingers definitely need more decoration, so I'm going to add flowers right above the bands. And I think I'm going to do a flower like that we did before, that's kind of closed, so I can get more color popping out. Just like that. Now I have a little bit more of arm up here that I can decorate, so I'm just going to continue to add some more design. And if you want thicker lines, you can just go over and pull off the paint like so. Just make a thicker line and scratch off the paint so you can get a thicker line like that. So I'm going to add a couple thick lines. And I think I'm just about finished. I didn't leave too many empty spaces, and there's lots of color. So I'm done with my design, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut around it. You can also take your toothpick and go around the hand and make the lines around the hand thicker, if you like. If some of it came out thin, just make that color pop out. When I cut my hand out, I'm not going to cut exactly on the lines because I don't want to lose the scratched out color. If you can see on this one, I cut out but I left an outline. So I'm going to leave a little space and not cut directly on my lines that I scratched out. Just leaving about 1/4 of an inch space from the outline of my hand and where I'm cutting. Now, if you did your hand with your fingers open, it's going to take a little bit more time to cut out those around those fingers than if you had your fingers close together, but that's okay. Just take your time. And that is what your finished hand will look like, something like that. So I hope you enjoyed making and learning about mehndi, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.